Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and I declare Council meeting CL24/5 open, and welcome everyone here. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed and the consequences of that. I shall now start with the karakia. Whakatau, Maiti Wara, Whakawatia, Maiti Hinanaro, Whakarite, Maiti Tinana, Kia ea, ai ngā mahi. Ai. I have an apology from Councillor Joyce and an apology for lateness from Councillor Daly. Can I have a mover and seconder for those, please? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour and Councillor Murray Benge. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. There is one late item for Council to consider, and that's for the inclusion in the open section of the agenda being consultation on draft financial contributions 24-25. The reason that this item was not included in the agenda was that the information included in the attachments was unavailable at the time of being published, and it could not be delayed to the next scheduled meeting as consultation needs to take place to inform the LTP prior to adoption in September. So I'll call for a mover and seconder that in accordance with section 46A(7) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act, the following draft item be considered as a late item of open business. And that's item 10.4, consultation on draft FinCos. So mover and seconder for those, please. Councillor Henry, Councillor Sole, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Are there any declarations of interest? No, there are none. So moving on to, there are no public excluded items. I'm not aware of anyone for public forum. So on to section 9 and council and committee meetings for confirmation. So minutes of the annual plan, long-term plan committee on the 5th of March. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, Councillor Coxhead. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Minutes of the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting on 15th of May. I shall move those. Councillor Henry, second. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. So moving into the reports proper. Western Bay of Plenty District Council adoption of the Smart Growth Strategy. So for this, I think we've got Tracy and Emily. On page 21, by the way. Tracy.
Good afternoon. As Mayor James has pointed out, we're here today to adopt the Smart Growth Strategy. I believe there is a short video that you wanted to play, Mayor James. Would you like to open with that, or?
Yeah, I think I'll just give a little bit of context and then We'll open with that. So on the 27th of May, the Smart Growth Leadership Group adopted the strategy, and subsequent to that, TCC did and Regional Council. It was quite a positive meeting and quite a good vibe there. And I just wanted to, and for those who weren't there or haven't seen it, I thought we'd just play a little bit of an excerpt of actually Bill Wasley, who's the TCC rep on Smart Growth, just to sort of summarise where we got to and his view on the adoption. So I think that's just puts everyone in the frame, and it's about 5-6 minutes long. So if we can play that now. He forgets his microphone at first, so. Okay, so just, I think that, just hold it there. I think that various other people speak and give similar messages. So, but just moving back to our council, I think it's probably best I hope everyone's read the strategy, or at least had a good look over it, and see if there's any questions for Tracy or Emily at this point. So, open to questions. Councillor Mowbridge.
How did the regional council respond?
So immediately after the Smart Growth Leadership Group adoption, it was TCC and then sequentially Regional Council, and they both adopted without any debate. Because this really is the culmination of a lot of hard work over a couple of years. Yeah. Okay. So if there's no further questions, I think it would be appropriate if Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour would like to move the recommendations. You accept that? Yep. Councillor Thwaite. Any debate? Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that was a very thorough process undertaken to consider this new updated strategy. I think it struck a good balance between new developments and intensification of existing areas, and given good consideration to the issues of business land requirements, as well as the well-known and more talked about ones of housing land. And do have to so I do support it, those reasons. I do accept that it won't be perfect and there will be changes over time, and every document should be like that as circumstances change, there is the opportunity to respond to those changes. So yes, I'm happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thwaites. If you wanted,
No, I'm more than happy to speak. Yeah, following on from Deputy Mayor, this certainly is the framework going forward. There is a 3-year review program, to my understanding. So that's great. I guess there's a lot of talk around local government and things going on. CCOs are floating around, amalgamations are floating around, unitary authorities. This is the framework really for our entire region going forward, no matter which path is going to govern it going forward. But I will add a little bit to what Bill spoke to the meeting regarding Western Bay. I think it's a big upgrade for our Western friends in Katikati and Wai Beach. They have actually now appeared on most of the maps. I see they're still missing from the public transport maps, but that's something for 3-year review that I'm sure they will be incorporated into that as well. So that's a great step forward. Growth is identified long-term in Te Puke, and that's a good thing. We've had our spatial plan exercise going on, as well as possibility of other developments. And I saw a comment recently by a great Te Puke advocate and leading accountant down there said that Western Bay doesn't do much for the Te Puke region. If he reads our LTP, we're about to launch into the biggest single project in Western Bay's history, with a complete rebuild of the wastewater system there. We've got the spatial planning exercise going on, so we're fully committed to that. Getting back to the central part, and Bill talked about the importance of the funding lining up, and this highlights to me the vital need for the Tauranga Northern Link to be fully go out to the Omokara and the interchange in the schools program. So I hope this is the basis of any possible city-wide or city deal that the National Party might come in, and it highlights how critical those two projects are to us for starters. So the Omokara community have been crying out for that. Now people are starting to threaten to start leaving the peninsula to educate their children, which would be a total travesty. So hopefully those can be advanced. So I fully support this, and I look forward to working with central government to get these projects underway. We've shown our commitment at our end with huge investment, and now it's time for the government to front up on the parts they are responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thwaites. Next I have Councillor Coxett.
I just want to say I'm supportive of this in general, the smart growth strategy in general. Very much see the need for opening up new land for commercial, residential, industrial. and clearly with the projected growth we have. The one reservation I'm going to state right now is page 109 of the strategy referring to 15-minute neighbourhoods. I will reserve my opinion on this until I see full concept plans, because I have already said I am not in favour of very high density housing, little wee houses with no garaging and very little, if any, outdoor area. So I just want to put my concerns there. But other than that, in terms of everything else in the strategy, I'm very comfortable.
Thank you, Councillor Coxhead. Councillor Mowbenge.
I want to say, sir, we've been here before. And the tragedy of it was Western Bay was committed to the changes. We were failed by successive governments, and so it just meant nothing, smart growth policy, and because it could be manipulated by central government too easily. And I think, sir, as a result, we've been held back considerably. I asked about the regional council, were they supportive of this? And because in my view, they're a handbrake on the region's development. And so it's one thing for the elected people to be speaking in favour of the smart growth, but if the staff aren't with the elected reps, then it becomes impossible. And I'm adamant that they have been a handbrake on the growth of this region. I also think that I'd agree with Councillor Coxhead. We seem to be squeezing people up too much and making sure that they live in such tight environments that there's no need for them to have any place to park a car or garage a car or have a road that's wide enough to park on, even that. And so the squeezing up has got to actually be better interpreted than what we've seen so far. But I say to you again, as councillors, we have seen projects come to this council that go nowhere because the regional council quietly moves in and is so slow to encourage anything to happen that it's such a serious handbrake, sir. Our council can do its part, and must say, Papakainga housing in the rural area is acknowledged. Those sections have to be bigger, and I think that's great. But as far as our urban communities are concerned, for a family bringing up children on a place where you can't park a car or garage a car, I think is a social insult to modern democracy. So, sir, I accept this smart growth policy, but I say it brings with it challenges, and we absolutely have to keep the pressure on to make sure that it actually works. And to think we had a Minister of Transport who so-called had his cabinet ministers at the table and was able to take Te Puna to Mokoroa off
I think,
the 10-year
Councillor
plan.
Mowbenge, I think we're getting a wee bit off topic here.
Oh, no, I'm not. And take them off the 10-year plan was a failure of smart growth, sir. He didn't commit to the smart growth policy that did exist. And I think that's a tragedy. So we expect more from our politicians. And so I think the fact that we've had 29 and 2 is involved as national significance. I look at Totara Street, a district road that should be laned so you can get your truck into the port. And I hope, sir, that there is much speedier decision-making than the months that it took to come out with the smart growth strategy. I think you've all done as best as you possibly could, but we now have to actually implement it, and therein lies the challenge.
Thank you, Councillor Mowbenge. Councillor Henry.
Well, I'm very pleased to see that the document is finally out there and signed, and that we should be on our way. I'm afraid that I am not totally convinced that it's going to be moving at the speed that we would want it to be moved. If we look at the way, I wasn't here when smart growth started, but it didn't move at a huge pace. I'm just looking at page 47, referring to Councillor Murray-Benge's livability and placemaking for local areas. Once again, I'm not totally convinced that we're going to have that when we see what we had presented to us, and when we looked at Belk Road and the other road, when we looked at with the houses going in on the high cliffs, and then the developers saying, well, we don't even know whether we can actually make money on that. So once again, it puts signals to me that they're going to be all cramped into small living areas. It doesn't, the rhetoric is not there about livability and placemaking for local areas that I see coming into our, what we've seen come into the chambers. So I have a reservation. The other thing that I have a strong reservation about is that what we're dealing with now is governance. So who are the people who are actually going to implement this? What structure of our council, of Taronga City, of regional council? Who is the group that's only going to implement this?
That's each council.
Pardon?
Each council will
So we're
implement
each
what
going
it
to
is.
have a role within our own rohi, or does it overlap?
It is our obligation to implement
What we commit
the strategy in our district.
What we've committed to, yeah. Okay. All right, so, yep, I'm pleased to see it, but I have reservations.
Okay, so before I put it to the vote, I'll just say thank you to staff and particularly the panel, which includes Deputy Mayor Scrimger. There's been a huge amount of work, and I appreciate that and acknowledge that. And also our partners, Regional Council, TCC, Mana Whenua, and the Crown. And I think as Councillor Murray Bench has alluded to, and Commissioner Wasley before that, the challenge is the implementation, and it is now up to us to carry that out. So with that, I shall put the three recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Emily. So moving on to page 211, which is the recommendation for adoption of the 24-25 dog control and health registration fees. And I think we've got Dougal to introduce this one for us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce the recommendation for adoption of the 24-25 dog control and health registration fees. We last met on the 9th of May, where we had quite a lengthy discussion about the fees. And the decision there was to recommend this to council, and that's why we're here today. I'm happy as well, nothing's changed in terms of the fees, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dougal. I recognise Councillor Sol.
Thank you. Okay, in this one, I have a couple of one simple question. What does it cost us to register a dog?
Cost us?
What does it cost us to register a dog?
Well, it costs the customer.
No, okay, excuse me, sir. What is the cost to register a dog? Cost price.
Our cost. Okay, well, that's a complicated answer, and I'll tell you why. 90% of all registrations are paid, generally by the end of July. All right. We advertise the rates, we communicate those rates, and 90% of dog owners go out there and they'll come in and they'll pay the rates either online or they'll come into the service centres. For the rest of the year, we're chasing that 10%. And I don't like to use the word chasing, but we are chasing those. It's a legal requirement to get your dog registered. So we are chasing those dogs. But we're also at the same time responding to barking dog complaints. We're also responding to any God forbid attacks, which we don't want, but they do happen, and roaming dogs. So to actually nail that down as a cost per registration is actually quite complicated. But if it's something you absolutely want, I can try and find a way, but I'm not promising that I can find an actual cost per registration.
Councillor Murray Bench.
Sir, we were told that 54% of the costs we could find. So what's happened to the other percentage?
would you? I'm sorry, councillor, what do you mean 54?
I think you're referring to the split between, are you referring to the split between the cost of the dog control function being, or animal control function being dog registrations and general rates? Is that where you're going?
Ah, okay. Where we're currently at, that's changing every month. So currently, if we look at, take our overall costs, which include overheads, so it's the operational costs, your salaries, your vehicle costs, and then we add on the overheads as well, we are looking at currently, in terms of costs, 1.17 million. Okay. However, the revenue that's come in so far this year, and I'm using this year as an example, and I'm taking this from the end of April, because we've got actual figures for there, is 769,000. So we're looking at about 65% of user fees are covering overall costs at the moment. That probably going to change in the next 2 months because don't have a lot of revenue coming in, sorry, by the end of June, because the majority of the dog registration fees have come in. So we're not looking at really generating any revenue in the next few weeks till the end of the year.
Thank you, Dougal. I think Rachel wanted to come in just to add a comment there.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to remind Council that we have traversed the topic of this suite of charges a number of times now, including on the 9th of May, when the Annual Plan Long-Term Plan Committee resolved to recommend to Council the adoption of these charges, the adoption of this fee regime for this next financial year. I do acknowledge that conversation had a divergence of views, but I think we need to be a little bit careful that we don't confuse the setting of the fee for the next financial year with the revenue and financing policy discussion, which is how the activity overall is funded. That is set through our revenue and financing policy and is something that is in the public domain at the moment as part of the long-term plan. And councillors will be aware that submissions to our long-term plan close in 4 days, so close on the 17th of June. That is where that debate best sits. If there was a feeling amongst council that revenue and financing policy needed to change, that is likely something that will need to be revisited, probably in the next annual plan. I'm also quite mindful that there are some statutory obligations that the Animal Services team has in terms of set out in the Dog Control Act for notifying their dog registration fees and actually for getting the process under. There's quite a bit of work and administrative effort that goes into registering 9,000 or so dogs. So we're coming up against it in terms of getting that process underway. So just those few reminders there, councillors, that you have traversed this issue a number of times now. Do appreciate that there's some divergent views, and that is likely something that can be, in terms of whether or not you wish to see a further step change in the dog registration fee, my recommendation would be that that is something you need to consider through the next annual plan.
Thank you, Rachel. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour.
Just question of Ms. Curtis, please. I seem to recall that when we met back in May, that you said that the dog fees cover the operational costs of the service, but not the overhead costs. Is that correct, more or less?
I will stand by that statement. I don't have the information directly in front of me, but generally speaking, the direct costs of the service are covered by fees and charges.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we'd better look for a mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour, Councillor Daly. Is there any further debate on this one? Councillor May-Benj, Councillor Saul.
Happy to speak on it and to compliment our staff on the dog controlled service that we provide. I think we do a thoroughly good job. Unfortunately, this issue has got muddled up, in my view, with the dog exercise areas, for which I'm totally opposed. And when we squeeze people up into tiny sections and expect them to be able to fence off our reserve areas in order to people to exercise a dog, I think when we provide a thoroughly good one in Kaimai in the Huarua Park, and I think we are failing our dog owners by having that debate at all. So, sir, I will accept the recommendation, sir, but I reserve my right to make sure that I continue to speak against the dog exercise areas, because that 30,000 could go straight into the dog account to help to improve the service that our dog control people provide.
Thank you, Councillor Mowbridge. Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, sir. Basically, my credentials, I guess, right from the start, is that, yes, I've been a dog owner, a multi-dog owner. I've judged, trialled, bred, etc. dogs, imported dogs, etc. So, and I love them, okay? So, but dogs are something that you elect to have. And to me, the situation, I guess, is that we seem to have such a variance in the fees for a starter, from $50 through to $120. Now that can vary on different things. So obviously Matakana doesn't get a lot of service. Okay, so it's $50. That's why I wonder where the cost is, because we go basically what, 120% difference. That's one of the areas that concerns me. These days, with it being so tight financially for a lot of people, we only recover 53, or we're planning to recover 54% of the costs of administration of things. And we have these variances. Again, you elect to have a dog. I think it's up to you to be able to wear its costs. And they are not small. These days, vets accounts, etc., are quite noticeable. I then follow this whole thing through, and basically, as I say, the ratepayer is subsidising the dog owner in general. And that really, under these terms, is really quite a problem to me. I'm not happy with where we're at in general for the people that don't have a lot of money. This is an area we could actually start to either charge more realistically. The difference between whether you spayed or had a dog fixed and a dog that's entire is relatively irrelevant. It's the same creature. Okay, the ability to breed is I guess, what's there. But maybe a one-off, if you want to, for somebody to encourage them to sterilise their dog. But to continue to give at this stage at present $30 a year is quite noticeable. In fact, next year it's even greater. It's almost $50. Is it? Well, no, it's yeah, it is almost $50 actually. So I just don't believe that we really are doing the right thing. Somehow we have a thing here that we're meant to try and get to. 80% is what we've said we want to recover, and we're recovering 53 and presumably this next year 56%. And our answer, this is the bit that gets me, our answer is to alter the policy. Hang on, that's not smart. That's dumb to me. That's not where we should be being, because we can't make it work. Alter the policy. That's our answer? No. So then I look at it a bit further, sir, and I look at things and I guess over the time, we've got dog parks. We've allowed $120,000 for dog parks along with the land. And for instance, some areas we've heard don't need it, but this is meant to come from somewhere in this mix. Now, I look at it and I'm at Waihi Beach. We have a part of the beach that is open all year round for people to run their dogs. So we don't relatively have it as an absolute need. I'm not saying we shouldn't have it, because I like the ideas. But at present, I don't believe it's necessary to be doing this sort of thing. And I asked the question the other day, when we have our doggy days out, do we even check whether the dogs are registered? whether they're chipped. No, okay. So maybe that might be looked at. It's just another area, an opportunity when you've got a captured audience to check them. But the bit that really gets me is we basically have year after year, and I get screeds of, and see screeds on Facebook about the dog issues at Waihi Beach. And we're putting in an exercise area instead of funding some form of control of those dogs far better than what we have. We're not creating a good experience for our people that either live there or visit. We aren't funding or looking at funding in any way out of this budget to actually give some dog control at Waihi Beach at a time when it's really needed. So to me, this whole thing is relatively a farce. It's years on years we've done this, and here we are, continuing with the same old fable, doing the same old thing as we've always done, and really achieving little. That's how I see this, and because of that, I can't really agree with it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Sile. I think we're moving slightly into operational matters there, but rather than fee decision. But I've now got Councillor Coxhead.
Well, I'm a dog owner and owner of 2 dogs and pay my registration, have no issue with that. But typically, and I've said this before, it's responsible dog owners who register their dogs, and people who don't register their dogs are probably the dogs that are causing the problems. Now, we're subsidising that for the community. So when I hear that people are vehemently opposed to dog parks, it makes me wonder why, when given that they're getting something for nothing from the likes of us, and a small amount going to a dog park is, in the scheme of things, in my view, is not a huge amount of money. So you could argue, look, I don't have children, so why am I paying a fee for a pool, a swimming pool? I don't go to the library, or I don't read books, so why am I being charged a library fee? So you could argue that up and down Dale. But at the end of the day, we're a community with diverse needs, and I feel like, yes, as a dog owner, and my registration goes towards a dog park or not, look, to be honest, I'm not going to die in a ditch over a dog park. However, I think we need to look at this a little bit more holistically. And yeah, I have no issue with the dog registration. I don't think it's exorbitant, and I don't think it's gone up horrendously either. So I'm very supportive of the raise in the fees.
Go on, Councillor Henry.
Can I just ask, the doggy days out, are they covered under the licence fee for the dog, individual dogs? Is that paid, cover the fees of the, it's 4 times a year, isn't it? They have a doggy day?
No, we only have a doggy day out
once a year. So is that covered from the registration fee?
It comes out of the operational budget, yes, but we do get some help from other
So,
departments.
so the doggies are getting at least one festival event each year, which currently we pay, what do we pay, $100 or something like that to go to an event? So, you know, they are getting some sort of entertainment from it. And as I said before, this is really important, these doggy parks and things like that, because for some people, this is it. They don't have family, this is their family. So I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, I think we've had to cover this a fair amount now. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scrimgeour and seconded by Councillor Daly. So I shall put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? No. Carried. So moving on to item 10.3, which is the adoption of schedule of fees and charges 24-25. And Adele to introduce us. So on page 216.
And thank you, and through the Mayor. So this is the follow-on from the last item where we've adopted the charges for dog and animal control. This is the remainder of the fees and charges that we've recently consulted on between the period of 15 April and 15 May. Through the consultation, we received 3 pieces of feedback. 2 were in relation to our property files, and 1 was actually not to the correct council. So we have provided you with an option of decreasing the property file fees. And this is going from $152 that we previously consulted on down to $92, but that being the only change that we're proposing for fees and charges that will be effective from 1 July, assuming council adopts them. Thank you.
Any questions for Adele on this one? No? Okay, so I'll look for a move. So is that a question or are you moving? Question, Councillor Sol.
Basically, sorry, I was trying to find my pages here and I haven't, but so included in this one is the fireworks fee. And I just want to know what the difference is, why there is a difference between rural and urban. What is the basic reason? Yes, 238 it's on, correct.
Just give me one moment, I'll see whether if Alison's got the answer to that one.
Fire engines are further away, Alan.
Unless Adele's got it right now, I think it might be better to come back, but do you have it or do you? No, okay, I think it's best if we come back on that question, Alan.
Thank you.
Okay, so looking for a mover and seconder for the fees and charges, please. Councillor Henry, I'll be happy to second that. Is there any debate on this one? Councillor Murray Benge.
With the economy sort of coming out of a nightmare, it's a tough time for people to actually do anything. And so these fees and charges are really something to keep our system going. And I hope that that means we can improve our performance and get the information and decisions out for people so they can get on with their jobs and their livelihoods, because we need to keep the economy moving. And so I think we carry a great responsibility in our council, local government, to make sure that we're doing the best we can. So I accept these fees and charges, but want to ensure, sir, that in fact we actually keep the system moving better than we have done. And because the applications are down, which means we should be able to process things faster. And I just hope that that is the case, and we shall monitor it accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll just mention I'm pleased that we responded to the submission on digital property files, and I hope that's achieved some satisfaction for the submitters on that. But I'm not seeing any other speakers. I shall put the motion for those 4 recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. So now we move to the late item, which is the consultation on draft financial contributions 24-25, and that's in the late item file. So this one's introduced by Adele as well, and so take it away.
Thank you, and through the Mayor. Well, I'm pleased to advise that this is the last piece of consultation that we're undertaking as part of the long-term plan. We have done quite a lot of work to bring the details of the financial contributions for the district to the table today. Being a high growth council with a lot of projects, there was a lot of detail to work through in the background to make sure that we were happy with them before taking them to the community. So the main changes that have come through have been identified in the report and part of the statement of proposal that is going to the community, but I just wanted to talk briefly to the key changes. So in the last lot of charges, we didn't have the kari out for. And so these costs are now, reasonably significant in terms of that replacement cost. And so that is having an impact on the kari financial contribution. And likewise with our large Te Puke wastewater treatment plant that were now higher than the cost estimates back in 21 when it was originally included in the long-term plan. Costs across the country, as council are aware, have been high, and that was provided, there was a report undertaken by the Infrastructure Commission that sort of signalled some of these really significant changes. We've also done some updates to the projects in Mokoroa, and including some of the areas of stormwater ponds, which are having an impact on the total cost. And then we've also updated for our external funding, which actually reduces our financial contribution requirement for those projects. So, for example, the Mokoroa roundabout. In summary, we've got a summary table within the report about what we're anticipating now for each of our urban areas. You will see, because of the high development costs for Mokoroa, that they have gone up from 68 to 80,000. Karekare, as I mentioned, because of the outfall, from 41,000 to 64,000, and then Waihi going from 41 to 57 as a result of the stormwater projects that have been proposed. And with Te Puke moving 36 to 46 as a result of mainly due to the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you, Adele. So I've just got a couple of questions for you. So firstly, are you confident that we have robust and defendable figures for CapEx and the proportion that is attributable to growth?
There has been a lot of, through the Mayor, there has been a lot of work going into that thinking and testing of the growth attribution. I might get Peter to talk to some of those formula that we've now applied to our various projects.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, the work's been done to use either a capacity or a benefits formula. Typically, those two go hand in hand when the capacity of an asset is known and how much it'll serve. We've used the capacity formula. In most cases, we've used the benefits formula, which basically puts aside the difference in the growth, analyses the population or the increase in households over the total households at the end of the period. And that percentage is deemed to be the growth percentage. So that's been robustly done through the various projects. Each project is assessed by itself for its characteristics.
Thank you. And the other question I have, it talks on page 5 of the late report about the recovery of the residual debt will be undertaken as part of a future consultation with the community. Can you give any idea as to when that would be at this point?
Through the Mayor, we haven't ascertained a date. We'll have to work with council in determining what those final splits would be. We have acknowledged that some of the costs attributed to Waihi Beach cannot be put to the developer community, and so we put that to the side, and we'll work with you in probably in the next year as we go out to the following year's plan about what the residual debt might look like.
Would it be a separate process from an annual plan process, or would it?
It's likely to be, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Henry.
What you just said, I've got a question. Are you going out to the Waihi Beach community to discuss these figures? Is that what you said?
We're talking about the residual debt position of the Waihi, Waihi area.
So Waihi Beach, the growth amount is 6,000 plus. That's obviously that because the figure's different from the stormwater, which is taking into consideration that the growth of the seasonal population might change. Is that what?
So the Waihi stormwater projects has been driven from the community.
Yeah. So capacity for the wastewater is currently now, is it going to be able to cope with that? Those projected growths?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. It will be able to accommodate for the seasonal changes for Waihi Beach.
And just under 2,000 more growth in people, I presume that is, for Waihi Beach. And I presume you're talking about in terms of the growth, the farm up the top of Citrus Ave and all around the back? I'm presuming that that's what it is.
We would have to look into that further.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Murray Binge.
Adele, could you tell me, please, are we talking to the regional council with the Katikati outfall problem? And it implied when you spoke, and I could have got it completely wrong, that we took our foot off the pedal when we thought taxpayers could pay for work to be done. And so now it's back with ratepayers. Is that what I'm hearing? That's the first question.
Through the Mayor. So in the first instance, the Katikati outfall has failed earlier than the anticipated asset life was projected. So then they're now working on what the new design for a new outfall would look like. Those costs have been based on a formula that determined what that split was between financial contributions and rates for that replacement.
Right. The Te Puna outfall was so bad that the regional council, kicking and screaming, actually ended up coming in and helping to fund that development for a wastewater treatment.
I don't think this is particularly relevant to the
Yes, it is.
existing
And so
Fincos.
have you approached the regional council to be part of the funding of the outfall, the repair work and the long-term question of the outfall?
No, that's starting to get projects and monitoring and that's kind of area. This is about setting Fincos, not for trying to design a wastewater scheme now.
Well, I still come back to the fact that is the regional council contributing to this as well?
No, they're not.
Thank you. Councillor Granger.
Thank you. My question was with regard to the wastewater in the Mokoroa, and if you look at the historic and forecast capital, it looks like there's about, 3 to 1, so a third of the number there is forecast, and yet the percentage for growth is 89%, and that seems to be back to front for all the rest of the numbers there. Does that indicate that because the big part of the project was put in many years ago, that basically we've been very poor in collecting the historical debt, and we are now paying back, having to pay back incurred interest and charges that because we haven't collected in the past?
When talking in respect to the disclosure tables, Councillor Granger.
I'm talking about table on page 11. Yes,
there's the Mokoroa wastewater infrastructure. Yeah, that's been put in historic amount and then also a future amount. The fact that the growth percentage historically was 100%, 100% was deemed for growth, and in this case, 97%, which is all but all of it. And I think you'll find the other component's probably a rates component that's been decided to be funded there. I'm not sure I've got the question.
Yeah, through the Mayor, if you refer to the more detailed table on page 26, that's got what the historic capex was versus what then the forecast capex, and what's been attributed to growth for both.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think there's no further questions. There are 4 recommendations there, and essentially that we're adopting these for consultation.
One last question.
Okay, Councillor Daly.
Adele, sorry, I started talking yet. Adele, with regards to the 2023 Fincos, the difference between them and now for Te Puke is, effectively $10,000, but we pretty much knew the costs of the Te Puke wastewater treatment plant when we adopted those fees last year. Has the cost estimates blown out that much on the typical wastewater plant, or is it simply down to the new methodology to calculate it? I don't know. It just struck me that you talked about, the costs have changed considerably since the last long-term plan, but we actually revised the FinCos last year as well.
Through the chair, we could just take a moment and just go and compare it to the last disclosure table, if you'd like. We don't have that information to hand directly at the moment.
Sure. I think it's quite clear that we know the cost of the typical wastewater treatment plant has increased. But if you want to give a more refined answer, then if it's available in the next few seconds, that's cool. But
I think it's pretty easy if we come back through the chair for more information about what those changes are. But yeah, the full listing of all projects is attributed to that area contained in the disclosure table, so you can do a comparison quite easy as to what they were and what the costs are.
okay, so just to carry on from where I was, there are 4 recommendations there, and we're essentially adopting the proposal for consultation. Councillor Granger moves. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Sol. There's no further debate. Councillor Murray Benj, go on.
It's a very testing time for us, and going out to the community is fundamental in the work that we do. But I do repeat again that whatever we have to do when it comes to sewage that goes out with the water that's so purified before it goes anywhere near the sea, that we actually involve the regional council in the funding proposals. I don't think they should be let off the hook. They've been involved before and they should be involved again. It shouldn't just come to the ratepayers of this area to fund the lot. They're responsible for the harbour. They're also responsible for the environment, and I just feel that it's really important. As for Mokoroa, we keep getting checks, and this wastewater system that we've got can take more and more, and then we discover that it comes at a cost to other areas to actually implement that. We weren't given those figures before when we actually make approval to bring in Te Puna commercial area or an MRI, but it comes at a cost. And so, sir, I think once again, as this area is going to prove difficult for us in the future, as TCC demands upgrading of Chapel Street and seeing us as contributing to that upgrade. At the moment, we have a contract with them, and I hope that we don't distort the contract in the meantime with any decision that we make, so that they force us to actually pay the millions that they're expecting from us.
Thank you. I understand that Adele's got the answer to Councillor Daly's question.
Thank you, and through the Mayor. So the project total has gone from 31 million last year to 52 million, of which the financial contribution attribution to growth went from 8.2 million to 13.9 million.
Thank you. That would seem to explain a significant increase in the FinCos for each per property. Councillor Sol.
Thank you, sir. I'm just so damn glad. I don't like the result, don't get me wrong. I think this is really hard to swallow, but it's what's needed. I'm just grateful that somewhere along the line staff found the hole that we were digging, and you've come up with a way to get out of it. As I say, I don't like the result, but it's necessary. Thank you for doing it. That's my comment, sir.
Great. Okay, thank you. So with that, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. So with that, I'll declare the meeting closed at 2:32.